Welcome back, you primitive life forms, to another episode of Video Game World Tours, a series where we slow down and soak in a game's environment. Today we're returning to the charming world of Xenoblade Chronicles. If you haven't seen the first episode, check out the cards or the description. We'll be continuing through the game right where we left off. We just took a look around the Ewok-esque frontier village. I closed out the last video by saying there were some stunning spots right after the village that I couldn't wait to show off. And we're already there, the Eryth Sea. You know, I made it a point to talk about how this game really loves to do scale reveals, trademark, where you're initially put in a little tunnel, and at the end of that tunnel is a wide open expanse just waiting to be explored. The tension built up through that little tunnel helps the reveal stand out that much more. They kinda don't care with the scale reveal here, you're just plopped on the shore. Though honestly, the scale speaks for itself. I think this is the area I was most surprised by in this game. Well, relatively. I'll talk about a truly out of left field surprise towards the end of the video. This map is big. I can't say if it's technically the biggest area in the game, but it sure feels like it. What sets it apart from other large areas like the Bionis leg is that it's flat. It is the Eryth Sea after all. The terrain is perfectly smooth at sea level. Most of the traversable space here is on these hovering reefs, which, sure, they're kinda cool. Nice aesthetic they got going on. I think it's fun that they're all floating individually and connected via teleporters. But the real meat of the Eryth Sea is down there. That's where I want to be. So I'll just jump. Kinda having deja vu here. Ooh, that's really gotta hurt. I don't think you'll sleep that one off. This is just insane. I can't think of a single-player RPG out there that has expansive environments like this. This is straight out of an MMO. You don't see world design like this in non-MMOs. It's refreshing, authentic. I've been bringing up scale theory in more and more videos recently, so I kinda feel bad for doing it again, but it's such an interesting lens to look at game worlds through. The long and short of scale theory is that the world you see in the game isn't what actually exists in world. The best example of that I have is in Skyrim. Everyone talks about the 7,000 steps on the way up to High Hrothgar, but if you actually count the steps, it's like 700. Plus, everyone talks about it like it's such a long and arduous journey, but you can do it in one sitting. So there's a discrepancy there between what the characters experience in-world and what we see on screen. That's a big thing in a lot of RPGs. Towns feel like they're closer together than they would be in a real world. Locations are shrunk and packed tightly. Areas in this game don't feel like that. It feels like the developers purposefully wanted to buck the trend of creating an incredibly compact world. They let spaces breathe a bit, create regions of the map that don't serve much of a mechanical purpose. Like, why would you jump from the islands above to down here? There aren't even that many item pickups. It's just empty. I don't know. There's no specific spot here that really speaks to me. I just generally love this area. The heart of Eryth Sea is the capital of the High Entia, Alcamoth. You enter a teleporter and you're placed in a tiny tunnel. Scale reveal obviously incoming. Wow, this is an expansive settlement. I feel like the High Entia just fundamentally value scale. Their capital here is so spacious and uncluttered, as we can see, but even the surrounding Eryth Sea is mostly undeveloped. They're much more technologically advanced than the Homs. I have no doubt they could have found something to fill all this space with. But they didn't. Maybe less is more to them. I feel that. This is such a well-maintained space. I'm kinda not used to seeing that in this game. Almost every place in the game I can think of leading up to this point has been weathered to some degree. This is pristine. polished. You can definitely feel the difference in the Homs versus the High Entia just by observing their place of living. The way they carry themselves, what they value, you get all of that based off the environment here. Look at all this flora. I can perfectly imagine myself frolicking through these grass patches. That'd be the life. I bet it's the perfect temperature in here for growing plants. What temp do you think it is? It's completely enclosed, sheltered from the elements outdoors. All this gray and silver makes me think it'd be relatively cold. Not like the 50s or anything. I'm feeling a high 60s, low 70s in here. Definitely not pushing 80. Guess we can explore some specific spots. Above the ground floor, there's a pathway that lines the entire city. Towards the northern end, there's a little room. Now, I will say, I haven't done all of the quests in this game. In fact, there's a lot I haven't done. I feel like I've already done an insane amount, and the game just keeps throwing them at you. I had to call it at some point and just focus on the story. My point is, I'm sure a lot of the spots I'll talk about in this video are relevant to a side quest or two. There was an island I showed off in Machna Forest in the previous video, and I commented that there was probably a quest that brought you there. Sure enough, someone left a comment telling me that is exactly the case. So I'd be willing to bet good money that a quest does bring you here. Maybe a quest I already completed did bring me here, I don't know. It's kind of forgettable and plain. I like it for that. I love a good, mundane spot. This feels like just a normal meeting room. The Imperial Palace is beautiful. The colors outside are so cool, and these are so warm. This room oozes elegance. Definitely fitting for a royal capital. My favorite spot in the city is the Imperial Villa. Before you even get to it though, you have this long-ass bridge to cross. Kinda spooky being up here, looking down below. That's the head of the Bionis, just behind Prison Island. Wait, is this the highest point you can reach in the game? Oof, it's close. This is what the top of Prison Island looks like. You can see the tip of it just barely. And that's where I think that is from Alcamoth here. Guess it's the second highest point. It has a better view, I'll give it that. And I want to reiterate just how long this path is. I know it could obviously be longer, but it's long enough to just feel weird to walk down. They could have built the villa closer, come on. Speaking of, the villa itself. You come here once during the story, and I gotta say, I don't know what they were going for here. Like there's this cute little courtyard area. It feels like it belongs in a place like this. But then you go in this building and it's just nothing. There's no furniture to speak of, not even a little chair to sit in. Are these supposed to be doors? You'd think so, since inaccessible rooms would make this place make a little bit more sense, but I don't really buy these as doors. Sure, they have handles, but look at how high up they are. Ain't nobody reaching that. And there's no frame separating these so-called doors from the wall. It's like a poster they bought at Walmart. Plus, you see this design elsewhere in Alcamoth, and they don't seem like doors there either. The ledge is raised up from ground level. This doesn't look like a doorway that people would take. It feels more like a window. It's just kinda weird. I like weird. Weird is where I'm at home. There's a couple areas after Alcamoth that I honestly don't have much to say about. I'm not going to talk about every place in the game, just the ones I think are interesting. Fortunately, there are a lot of interesting locations, so there's definitely more to see here. The next major region after Eryth Sea is Valak Mountain. You actually reach it through a previously inaccessible part of Machna Forest, an area we looked at in the last video. It's kinda funny how abruptly the environment changes from green forest to snowy mountain. Going down the path leads you to this. Yet again, I am immediately impressed with the new area. You know, I bet they put a lot of thought into everything that you see when you first walk into a new area. Like the first detail that pops out to me is the ice bridge reaching across from one mountain to another. And then of course you have all the ice crystals on the side and the path leading you down the mountain. Man, I am just a sucker for a real good tropey environment. A foresty place, an icy place, a deserty place? Wait a minute, this game doesn't have a desert region. That should be a crime, I think, for an RPG not to have a desert region. The closest we have is Sword Valley, and it's not close at all. I'll save talk about that for later though. For now, we need to absorb all this snowy goodness. You really feel the scale of this map. There's a lot of play space to explore. And most of the map is linear. It sees you scaling down the mountain all the way to the Bionis wrist. Looking at this map, you can see all kinds of pathways that connect main slopes down the mountain. It was kinda confusing to traverse this place when I first got here. Oh, before we get into specific spots for this section, I forgot to mention a major feature of this area. At night, it gets all funky. Reminds me of Satoral Marsh, only we're on pretty mountaintops and not dank swamplands. What an inspired bit of design. I can't say it makes a whole lot of sense at first glance, and I'm sure there's some side quest that explains why the crystals do this at night, but it's pretty. I actually first came here at night, and this was how I first saw the area. Definitely left a mark on me. Alright, some spots. The Felgar Pedestal is a tiny spot towards the top of the mountain. I can say with 100% certainty that a side quest does bring you here at some point. I just know it. But I haven't done that quest, so I don't know the context that it no doubt gives to this area. I still appreciate it though. I imagine not many venture up here. There's a ton of perilous paths leading you along the tippy tops of the mountains. No railings on the side here. Makes me kinda nervous. As much as I do enjoy exploring worlds like this, I don't want to fall down and have to come all the way back up. Interestingly, there's this whole path that's just not on the map for some reason. Not sure what that's all about. Doesn't seem super special in any way. Or is there something I might have missed? Perchance. This is Bagnar Snowfield. I'm only including this in the video because I quickly glanced at the title when I first came here and misread it as Banger Snowfield. That's nothing. Why did I even write that in my notes? Please unsubscribe and dislike the video immediately. Towards the northern corner of the map is a bit of a tricky place to get to. You have to walk along a mountain range to reach this little patch of ice. And this isn't any normal ice, this is some speedy ice. It's like this is the raw material that kart racing games make their boost pads out of. At this spot, it's obvious what you need to do. You run down, gain some speed, and jump. My god, that's some airtime. Fall damage is a thing in this game, but it's funny that you don't take it if you grab a climbable surface. Shulk can grab it while going just shy of the speed of sound and be perfectly fine. At the end of the path you're now on, you find a little clearing with some, powerful enemies. This is a save from earlier in the game, but even with my save from just before the final boss, I would not be able to take these guys. A door. Ominous. Aw man, I can't get in. I'm assuming defeating these guys grants me passage inside. I've never been one to go for super endgame bosses, so I guess I'll just never see what's beyond these doors. Kinda sad in a way. To those of you that have grinded out to the 90s to beat these guys, don't go thinking you're better than me. I definitely could reach the upper 90s, don't get me wrong. I'm just, it's too easy for me. And I don't want to make the game feel bad by putting these enemies in their place. So I'll just take the high road and leave them be. Final spot of interest in Valak Mountain is the Sealed Tower. This is a super important place in the story. It's where Shulk first finds the Monado in his youth. It's also where, I try not to spoil story stuff out of order in these videos, so I'll just leave it at that. This definitely feels important. It was probably built long ago, but by who? There's no native sentient species to Valak Mountain, so it must have been one of the 3 other peoples. Maybe the Nopon built this to hide their super secret, yummy scrumptious pollen orb recipes. Yeah, let's go with that as the non-spoilery explanation. Oh my god, I just noticed! The lower level of the mountain here is vaguely shaped like the Monado sword. There's the hilt, there's the circular bit, and there's the actual blade of the sword. What a cool little detail for a spot so relevant to the Monado and its backstory. At the bottom of Valak Mountain is the passage to Sword Valley. We're finally leaving the body of the Bionis and making our way to Mechonis. You can immediately feel the shift in vibes. All the flora that defined Bionis, the fauna, all this life is gone the moment you step foot onto the Sword of Mechonis. I did say it earlier, this is the closest you'll get to a desert in this game. All this orange and the complete lack of plants and animals evokes desert vibes. The only living thing on here are these tiny patches of grass or weeds. As well as some robots, but are those truly living? I'll be a bit forward thinking and say yes. Hopefully that's enough for me to be granted mercy in the future. Got a few spots to talk about here. This is where slime was produced for all those Nickelodeon game shows in the 90s. It's a shame those aren't around anymore. This was a big source of income for the Mechon. You can even go swimming in it, though you do take damage. I wonder if all those kids took damage when they were drenched in slime. I'm sure they were fine. Here's the Monado Wound, a place where the two being swords clashed in battle. Kinda puts into perspective just how tiny you are compared to the Bionis and Mechonis. This whole environment around you is just a sword, humbling in a way. Back behind it is a relatively small empty space. It's kinda like the place we looked at back in Valak Mountain, where I knew for sure that a quest would later bring you to this spot. Only I'm a bit less sure here. This is nondescript enough to be just some unimportant door. Maybe you never really do have to come back here. Though who can say, there's like a billion quests in this game. This is where you start to feel the true scale of the Mechon infrastructure. There's a lot to look at, and a lot that, you can't make much sense of. What are these things? Why is there a big whatever this is surrounded by two smaller ones? That kinda looks like a face. Spooky. Towards the far western edge of this port lies a dead end. Why? What's the point of all this extra space beyond where the ramp ends? Is the placement of this doohickey mega super important to the structure of the whole facility? It kinda looks like a big chest. I wish I could open it. That's all I got for Sword Valley here. Not much else of note. You climb up the Sword of the Mechonis towards the hand where it's being held. There's a whole dungeon that takes place in a super high-tech Mechon fortress. At this point, I was kinda getting tired of the whole Mechon vibe. I know it hasn't been that long in the video since we talked about Valak Mountain, but I had been in Sword Valley and Galahad Fortress for a good handful of hours by this point. I was itching to see more of this world's natural beauty. And I was not let down. You fall from the still attached arm of the Mechonis to the other arm that fell off. Absolutely stunning. So glad there's a scenic beach in this game. I love the vibes. This is truly the lowest point of the world. The arm completely separated from Mechonis and fell into the ocean below. And that's what this body of water is. The endless ocean that the Bionis and Mechonis fought in. In a way, it's kinda similar to falling off the ledge of the floating platforms in the Eryth Sea. You fall from above and are put in a wide body of water. Only this is as wide as it gets. The only piece of land we see in this game are the two titans you walk over throughout the game. We never see any traditional continents, so I can only assume that this ocean stretches all over the world and reaches right back here. It's kinda scary standing at the coast here. Like that is just never ending. Of course, you can't actually swim that far out. The water starts to damage you at some point. So my dream of swimming all around this planet and reaching the other side of the fallen arm has been crushed. As much as I do love the beach and this scene as a whole, we should move on. Oh boy, we're about to see something good. How about that? What do I even look at first? The fingers of the hand that we're in? Or the beautiful greenery littering the palm? I guess it was able to grow life, considering it fell down and is now in the water at ground level. Aesthetically, it isn't super different from what we saw in Colony 9 and the leg of the Bionis, but I think I appreciate this more because of all the lifeless interiors you go through before this. It's such a nice change of pace. It kinda revitalized me once I reached this point in the story, and in retrospect, it's a nice spot to really soak in nature's beauty before you dive into the Mechonis. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Spots. You can actually climb up one of the fingers here, and it is a journey. Look at how high up it is from the palm here. I definitely wouldn't think that's a place the game would expect me to go, but sure enough, a quest item does bring you there. So I made the climb. It wasn't difficult or anything, it just took a while. And you can't even auto-walk while climbing, so you have to manually hold up the whole way. Truly a first world problem. The journey is definitely worth it, because look at the view down below. And above. Huh, I guess this is a unique perspective, being on neither the Bionis or Mechonis. You get to have a good look at both of them. There's Valak Mountain, and you can see how it's on the arm leading into the sword. And over here is the Mechonis, our next destination. We're in for a lot of synthetic interiors coming up, so let's enjoy this natural landscape while we can. I love this long bridge as you're leaving to head inside the Mechonis. You would not want to fall off way down there. You're probably never coming back if you do. Honestly, I don't really have a lot to say for most of this part of the game. The Mechonis Field, Central Factory, and Agniratha all kinda blend together in a boring metal soup. I guess the scale really is impressive in some spots. I could spend all day speculating on what these doodads and thingamajigs are for, but the aesthetic as a whole just doesn't really do it for me, unfortunately. It is interesting that you can see the central factory way below you from the tippy top. There is one thing I want to mention though before we leave the Mechonis. Agniratha is the home to the Machina, the living people of Mechonis. It's described as a once prosperous city that a ton of people called home. But does this feel like a place people lived in? It feels more like a factory than anything else. There are doors here and there, so I guess the Machina have some interiors? Maybe things are a bit more lively in there. I don't know, this just doesn't strike me as home to a group of people. Though the Machina are machines that live a really long time, maybe their way of life is different from the Homs, and they don't see any use for decorations or a variety of colors. That's really all I have to say about this area. I just kinda got a weird vibe from it. After everything's said and done in Mechonis, you're directed back to the Bionis interior. You pass through a short portion of this area very briefly much earlier in the game. We took a short pit stop here in the last tour to appreciate the weird aesthetic compared to the surface everywhere else. It is funky in here. I was expecting funky from the little taste we got of this area much earlier in the game, and this does not disappoint. This feels like one of those episodes that cartoons always did back in the day, where characters shrink down and enter someone else's body. Look at all those big-ass blood cells, Nickelodeon slime, and of course, the beating heart of the Bionis. Kinda gross if you ask me. Even grosser, the main boss fight for this area takes place inside the heart. Not a big fan of this. Major icky. It kinda reminds me of being inside Jabu Jabu in Ocarina of Time. Ugh, just look at the walls. It glistens. Ugh, and the way the door opens? I have to admit they did a pretty darn good job rendering out the interior of a large creature to explore, but I don't want to soak it in. Sorry guys, you can soak it in on your own time. Well, we'll do some. A little bit of soaking never hurt anyone. Prison Island. You also come here much earlier in the game, but this time, we're here to finish things. This is the final main dungeon of the game. I gotta say, I love the look. There's nothing better than a JRPG castle. Sometimes I feel like JRPGs don't get the scale of castles quite right. More often than not, they feel like slightly larger normal buildings. This is a castle. These pillars reach way up to the ceiling, like 1,000,000 feet upwards. I like these passageways flanking the steps going up on both sides. It reaches really far back, and all that's hiding back here is a lonely item. Poor fella. I bet there'd be some nasty cobwebs in here if this was a real castle. There's a mega cool centerpiece at the top of the steps right next to the teleporter. I kinda want to drop bombs in that dragon's eye sockets and enter its mouth, but alas, I never got the bomb bag, so I guess we'll move on. The banquet hall. These are some nice big tables and chairs. Who are these for? There's no race of people that are noticeably larger than your average Homs or Hyentia. Oh my god, wait, giants are a thing. I completely forgot about Zanza. Or Arglis, I guess. And considering Dixon is also secretly a giant, I guess there was a whole race of them at some point. This was presumably a nice castle for their kind back then. But as it was at the beginning of this game, it was a prison for Zanza, with all the nicely decorated interiors overrun by monsters. Kinda sad. I would have liked to see this room in its prime. On the third floor is an arena. I bet there were some truly epic fights in here back when this place was— oh, look at all those items. Where was I? Oh, yeah, it's a big ol' arena. Aw, look at that. Some ether cloud enemies hanging out in the stands. I bet they miss all the cool fights. Towards the top of Prison Island is the Gondoral Cathedral. And this is where things get serious. The point of no return. Walking through this teleporter means you are on a one-track path to beating the game. Moments like this are always so complicated. I feel so many feelings standing here, just a few paces away from confronting the final boss gauntlet. It's your last bit of freedom before the game straps you in for a linear ride until the end credits. The game is telling you, go back into the world, complete all the quests, level up as much as you want. Come back when you're ready to end this. The finality is so impactful. Take just a couple more steps forward and you are locked in to beating the game. After gathering enough courage, I charged through the teleporter to finally end this. The fight with Dixon immediately after did give me a bit of trouble. I'm probably a tad bit underleveled at this point in the game, but I wanted to keep the momentum going. So I died a few times, but eventually, I did it. It was time to go through this portal and confront Zanza. Wow, this is unexpected. I'm pretty sure my jaw literally dropped when you first gain control after these cutscenes, and the game says, Landmark Saturn. Like, no, this isn't some fictional planet with some wacky-ass fantasy name. That's just Saturn. And that's Jupiter, Mars, the Moon. Is this supposed to take place in our solar system? This is what I was referring to earlier in the video as the big moment that caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to see the word Saturn in this game. And that's saying nothing of the fact that we're just walking through space, fighting spirits of bosses from earlier in the game. It's obvious this is some spiritual plane or something, but the fact that it directly references planets in our solar system is just bizarre. I like curveballs like that. And that's the final explorable area in the game. Everything past this point are battles and cutscenes. Roll credits on Xenoblade Chronicles. Or rather, roll credits on the base game. The Switch re-release has a little expansion titled Future Connected. It takes place a year after the main game and sees you exploring the shoulder of the Bionis. I was surprised to learn that this is not a wholly new area developed for this expansion. The whole shoulder here was apparently created for the original game back in 2010. It was cut from the final release, but it still remained in the game's files. In fact, you can even see it in some cutscenes. I obviously didn't play Xenoblade back in the day, but I can imagine how cool it was to have read about this cut zone from the game back in 2010, and how they brought it back 10 years later. I'm glad they did bring it back. This is a super cool place. And even though the day has been saved, let's spend just a tiny bit more time on Bionis. This is the Companions Forum. This is actually one of the times you get to see the shoulder of the Bionis during a cutscene in the base game. I distinctly remember watching that cutscene and not recognizing where the characters were. I just kinda assumed my memory was on the fritz like usual, and that I forgot some spot. But no, You genuinely can't come across this place outside of the Future Connected expansion. And it is a particularly memorable little piece of land. There's this rock jutting out from the ground below, and it creates a raised platform at the end. Plus there's slopes leading down from the side of it partway through. What a peculiar spot. Some survivors from the battle 1 year ago have settled in Grandel. I love the view as soon as you walk through the gate. What a beautiful scene. It's so picturesque. If this game had a real good photo mode, I'd be taking all kinds of screenshots here. This would be an absolutely lovely place to live. And look at that, wheat fields. I love when developers think of how NPCs would eat in a world. There's even people working the fields. Amazing. I don't have much to say about the town of Grandel. They seem to be doing pretty well for themselves, excluding the, fog in the room. You can actually climb to the tippy top of the tower in the center of town. Man, there is nothing better than climbing up super high in this game and just looking around. The landscapes they've crafted are so beautiful. Next, let's visit that far end of the lake. Say, you think I can make it? I guess I gotta ask myself one question. Do I feel lucky? I've made scarier jumps. Alright, this waterfall. This is a weird pull, but it reminds me of the waterfalls in Super Mario Sunshine's Pianta Village. The way they both just endlessly pour into the void below. If I could zoom out really far, I think it'd be funny to just see how long the waterfall is reaching down all the way to the ocean. But alas, we're stuck with this camera angle. So sad. Here's the entrance to the Zeker Marga Quarry, the Quarry Colonnade. You mean the Quarry Colonnade? Like colon lemonade. Do you get? Whatever. Okay, we have one more major area to look at, and then we'll end with my favorite spot in the game. This whole expansion sees you wandering all over the shoulder of the Bionis, but it's not purposeless exploration. You have one goal: to stop the Fog King that took over Alcamoth. Alcamoth is no longer safe to live in while the Fog King is here, and this place isn't doing so well. Remember how pristine everything was back then? How well maintained it was? It's practically falling apart now. Cracks in the glass ceiling, grass growing out of control. And come on, the fun conveyor belts aren't even working? This is truly a sad place now. And it gets even sadder when you walk in the palace itself. Man, that warm orange lighting really did a lot for this place. Without it, it's kinda depressing. This reminds me of the castle in Wind Waker before you obtain the Master Sword. Everything's gray and lifeless. The royalty and importance that once oozed from these walls is no more. But you can reclaim Alcamoth for the High Entia by defeating the Fog King. The environmental design helps play into the stakes for the story. You want to see this place restored to its former glory. It's kind of a unique vibe as it is, though. I wonder if the High Entia would mind if I just kinda left everything as is. Yeah, I'll help him out, I guess. With that, we have finally made our way through Xenoblade Chronicles. We climbed all over Bionis and Mechonis, and even done a little bit of space traveling. There have been so many unique locations that we've looked at, but one sticks out in my mind. Cloudtop Lookout on the shoulder of the Bionis. Maybe it's just recency bias, considering I just beat this expansion, but this place truly speaks to me. I've said it before, this game is peak when you're at a vantage point just gazing out at your surroundings. And this is my favorite because literally whichever direction you look, you have a beautiful view. Every screen is a feast, so much to look at and absorb. But I think my favorite view is this one. We've spent so much time exploring and understanding the bodies of these two creatures throughout the game, but I can't help but wonder what lies beyond. Characters always refer to the Bionis as their world, but there's so much more space out there. Is it truly all empty? Or are there more gigantic beings stuck in an eternal fight? I kinda don't want to know. The mystery is what makes questions like that so meaningful. Though honestly, I'd love to explore whatever Monolith Soft creates. They have such a deep understanding of what makes an interesting landscape. I have faith they can make any environment beautiful. The world of Xenoblade Chronicles will probably stick with me for a long time. The story or the gameplay might fade away as time goes on, but the world is one of a kind. Phew, that was a doozy. This has been my longest tour of a game ever, and that's not even including part 1. I will get out at least one other video on this game, maybe 2, so keep an eye out for those. Thanks for watching, and go away. I need to take a break.